Oh, what's going on, guys? My name is Bochko and this is the second episode from the series Battlefield 1 Pro Tips, Hints and Tutorials. And for this video I want to talk about the second most played game mode in the Battlefield franchise, Rush. So what is Rush? Let's go back to the time of its birth. It's a game mode that was first introduced as a new mod in Battlefield Bad Company 2 back in 2010. For a start, the maximum player count can be 32, 24 or 16 players in a server, or 8 for the squad rush, which I will tell you about it later on in this video. So we have two teams like in the most of the Battlefield's game modes, but they have different objectives. The first team are called attackers, and their goal is, like it says on the loading screens before you join the game, to win, destroy all the AIM-com stations by planting charges or using explosive weapons. Okay, first of all, what's an AIM-com station? Well, it's basically like a huge box with laptops, telephones, radios, wires and so much more things on it. Or I can say a treasure chest, which you have to make your own way to it and grab it, if that makes sense. And you can see it on your minimap marked as a rotated red square or later on like a downward arrow. Every team has a different spawn point or base, which are located in the opposite corners of the map. The attackers team start out at the deployment location and must move forward to the base of the defenders. Each base has two AIM-com stations and the attackers need to blow up both to move forward to the next site. Depending on the map, there may be a total of 3 or 4 bases to move through. And each time you conquer the next base by destroying the AIM-com stations, your respawn tickets will reset back to the original number, which in most of the times is 75. If the attackers destroy all the AIM-com stations, they will win the match. So, how can you destroy the AIM-com? Well, there are several ways to destroy it in Bad Company 2, and the first one is to go physically to the AIM-com station and plant the charge by press and hold the E button on your keyboard by default for about 2 seconds. And until the time runs out, which is about 30 seconds, you have to defend it from the other team. And if you don't have the chance to plant the charge on the station because the other team is too good, you can use explosive weapons such as C4, rockets, or you can just destroy it with a tank. Okay, moving on to the defenders team, and you probably already get it what they're supposed to do. And it's to win, defend the AIM-com stations by killing attackers and disarming enemy charges. So, their spawn point is near to the stations and they must defend them until the other team runs out of tickets. This means the defenders must kill the attackers and force them to respawn 75 times or whatever is that number, which depends from the server, to win the game. And they only lose tickets when they respawn, because if you kill someone and he got a revive, they will not lose a ticket. And if you don't know what a revive is, you can see my last video from this series, which will appear now somewhere on the screen. Okay, what if the enemy team somehow plant the charge? What you supposed to do? So it's pretty much like in Counter-Strike, and if you don't know what Counter-Strike is, you probably live under a rock. So of course you have to go to the AIM-com station and defuse it by press and hold the E button, like when you plant it, on your keyboard for about 5 seconds. But in Battlefield the game will continue because about the squad rush, everything I said so far applies to it, with a little difference. On this mod there's only 2 squads, 1 per team, and a total of 8 players. The map is a little bit smaller and there's only 1 AIM-com station to attack or defend. Okay, I think that's everything you need to know about the Rush game mode in Battlefield Bad Company 2, but what about in the next Battlefield games? Of course, it was a very successful game mode and they included it later on in Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4 and Hardline. In Battlefield 3 it's pretty much like in Battlefield Bad Company 2 with slight changes. After that, in Battlefield 4 like in Battlefield 3, they increased the player count on the server to 64 players. Was this a good idea? I don't think so. Because in the first couple of months after the release of Battlefield 4 you couldn't change the ticket count, and by default it was 75 tickets. So we have 32 versus 32 players in a map. And basically you can die average 2 times by a player and the game ends in 5 minutes. Later on they of course changed that to whatever number you want to balance the game. The other thing is the MCOM station. Well, it's not a drastic change, but now it's a smaller box instead what we had in Battlefield Bad Company 2, and the only way you can destroy it is by planting the charge on it. You can't destroy it with explosive weapons or vehicles. Okay, and finally Battlefield 1, what we can expect there from the Rush game mode. And I will read the official statement from the Battlefield website. So, Rush. In this 24-player mode, the attacking force must find and destroy the defending force telegraph posts, which can be used to call in artillery strikes. The defenders can deny the attackers their mission by disarming explosives they plant on the telegraph positions. Should the telegraph posts be destroyed, the defenders must fall back to the next sector and protect the telegraph posts there. Okay, so 24 players, they bring back how it used to be in Battlefield Bad Company 2. And the first question that pops out, what will happen with the server game mode rotation? Because in some of the servers in Battlefield 4 you can play one conquest match, but the next map it could be a rush game mode. And what will happen with all these 40 players? Are they going to be kicked out from the server? That sounds terrible. But I think they will find the right way to do it. Also, I think it's better to reduce the player count on Rush, and I will give you examples on some of the maps in Battlefield 4, like Operation Locker with 64 players, the Massacre. And I can say if you don't get Objective Alpha in the first 20 seconds of the match, after that it's almost impossible for the attacker's team to take it, if you know what I mean. Or like on Siege of Shanghai, where you can see a lot of players with stats like 100-0, because they stay the whole game on that tank of the defender's team, and if you get a good gunner it's really hard to destroy him. My first impression from the mod when I was playing the open beta is to increase that number a little bit to 32 I think, because yeah, I know that we didn't get all the weapons, but sometimes in some of the matches the attacker's team had 3 heavy tanks and the whole team was inside of them, and it was like 12 players versus 3 tanks. It was like a massacre. They need to balance that a lot. And well, okay, moving on to the next part, and like every Battlefield game we have 2 teams, the attacking force and the defending force. The attacking force must find and destroy the defending force telegraph posts, which can be used to call in artillery strikes. So, we don't have any more MCOM stations. Well, of course it's World War I, and instead of that we have telegraph posts, which are pretty much the same and they suit more for the time. Okay, let's make some experiments. How much time does it take to plant the explosive in Battlefield 1? 2 seconds like in Battlefield Bad Company 2. And again 30 seconds to be destroyed completely. And like in Battlefield 4 you can't destroy it with explosive weapons. The defending force. What is their job? Well, they have to defend the telegraph posts as always and disarm the explosive from the enemy team, which takes about 5 seconds. So, nothing has changed since Bad Company 2. Also, these telegraph posts have a very cool feature. You can use them to call in artillery strike. Artillery strike? How can you do that? Well, very easy. You just have to go to the post and press and hold E for 4.5 seconds, and what will happen? Well, pretty much nothing, or I think it was bugged in open beta, or I don't know. Because what I think it should do is to call in artillery strike like in the trailer. But nothing happens when you send the artillery coordinates. I was expecting to hear some artillery fire in the background, and when I look in the sky to see these shells flying away and hit the enemy team. That would be an amazing feel. Battlefield. Okay, I think that's pretty much all you need to know and can expect from the rush in Battlefield 1, and I think I covered up everything. If not, you can comment what I have missed in the comment section down below. And as an end, I want to add some notes for you that might be very helpful and will not confuse you when you play this mode. The first one is, if the explosive charge is about to explode and a defender is still defusing the charge, the telegraph post will not detonate unless the person is killed. It's not like in Counter-Strike where the bomb will blow up even though you were defusing it. Well, I know it's not very real, but I don't know, maybe the explosive charge is broken. About the second one, if an explosive charge has been set at the last telegraph post in a base and the attackers run out of tickets, the game will not end until the charge is defused. If the charge is not defused and it's detonated, the game will continue. Or if it was the last post in the map, the attackers will win. So pretty much if you have 0 tickets left but someone has planted the explosive charge on the last post before that, the game will continue until someone defuses it. If the charge is detonated, the game will continue, and of course if it was the last post, the attackers will win the game. And the third one is when you are on the defender's team and the enemy team has destroyed both of the objectives and you're behind enemy lines, you have to go back to your base or you will die because you are out of the combat area. Okay guys, this will be the end of the second episode from Battlefield 1 Pro Tips, Hints and Tutorials. If it was useful for you, you can give me a thumbs up, and if you want more Battlefield 1 videos, you can subscribe to my channel. So thank you, and I see you on the battlefield. Goodbye.